Welcome to our Urban Legends podcast. I'm Dr. Gloria McDaniel Hall. I've been a teacher, a principal, and assistant superintendent, all within urban schools in Chicago and around the country. Our Urban Legends podcast is a forum for sharing ideas, strategizing together, and supporting each other as we dismantle the deficit narratives sometimes associated with urban education and discuss where and how amazing work is being done. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited. The first thing I'm excited about is I have been in education for 38 years. I know I look like I'm 38, but I've been in education for 38 years. And in that time, I think one of the best things about doing something for that long is the connections that you make. So I've connected with both of my guests for today in different capacities. I worked with Tamiko within Chicago Public Schools, and I was a part of Dr. Chip's passing into his doctoral realm at National Louis University. And so I'm just really excited because both of these guests have done outstanding things in terms of linking people and schools and the community resources. And so that's kind of how we're going to start our conversation this evening. But before I get into all those questions and all of that, I'd like my guests to introduce themselves. So why don't we start with you, Tamiko?
Hi, I'm Tamiko Nettles, and I have been also in education for 21 years now. And as a teacher, as a student, first teacher, also a professional development coach, and also instructional coach to our pre-K to 12. And then also working with principals. And then now as a voice for our educators and over the teacher appreciation campaign, but also have done a lot to advocate for those who are homeless. And so I do a lot of work with that, especially on for another passion project that I have as well.
Awesome. And we can talk about those. We'll talk about those extra projects. Okay, Dr. Chip.
And let me just say, Tamiko really raised the bar for teacher expectations and quality throughout the district in the last 3 to 4 years. And she's done some great work just in making sure teachers' voices were heard. So anyway, I just wanted to just put that out there. But I've been in education 29. I started late, so 29 years. Gloria, and I know I look 29, so anyway. But yeah, and I mean, my story as to how I really started in education would take a little time. I'm not going to go into that story, but it is a story that really propelled me to where I am today, where tragedy became defeat and victory. So it was really amazing just how God used me to push me through the educational realm and become who I am today. Even as a doctor, I never looked towards finishing a doctorate degree, anything like that. So I retired from Chicago Public Schools in June. And I retired, July 2nd. This is how it worked, Gloria.
Okay.
I defended my dissertation on June 25th. I retired from CPS on July 2nd. And then my dog passed on July 9th. So those are three things that I always think about. But it was good. I had 16 years with my baby, so it was a blessing. But yeah, so I retired as the chief of family and community engagement. Formerly, I was a network chief for the central part of the city. Had 36 schools under my management in academic leadership. I was a deputy chief for the West Side, Deputy Chief of Schools for the West Side of Chicago in the Garfield-Humboldt area. And then prior to that, I was in administration. I'm here at Southland College Prep Charter High School, where I was the founding director principal here in Richton Park. And then, of course, being a teacher, administrator, and things like that. But it's just really full circle because once I retired, my boss and colleague and friends, especially, Dr. Davis, Blondine Davis, asked me to come back and work with her as her executive assistant to the district and to the school. So it's good. The district office is in the high school.
That's awesome.
We're connected. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
That's how I started.
That's amazing. And when I think about what I've done, I used to be not ashamed, but I used to feel some sort of way that all my experiences were in urban schools. Like, dang, like I need to diversify. But at the end of the day, when I think about it, I'm glad that my experiences were in urban schools. Number one, it feels like that's where I was needed the most. And number two, it felt like I was able to really make a difference, not just for the students and the parents I served, but for the teachers I served. I used my doctoral work to figure out the best ways that we could support urban teachers, because we were losing them like 50% every year. Like, no, we got to do something different. Like, what is it that we can do? And so like it kind of, the journey kind of found me instead of me finding the journey. I just got pushed along. And so like my next question for the two of you is like just your story. And even though you told a little bit about it, but how you ended up where you are, and what do you think like is going to be your magnum opus? What's going to be that thing for you, or have you found it yet?
You know, I don't think that I will ever find it, because the passion continues to grow. And when you're dealing with children, when you're dealing with the success of families, when you're dealing with the success and the trust of communities and things like that, that's something that doesn't have an ending point. It just continues to evolve. And so what I hope that doesn't cease is my passion, and that it continues to evolve and to grow until I've met my maker and all the work is done. And that's just how I feel about it, because when I started, you know, I'm a professional musician, and I started there, of course, and I'll tell a little short part of it. As a professional musician, you know, you're on the road, and I did a lot of good road trips with a lot of good high-profile musicians in my life. But in doing that, there was also a lot of downtime. That downtime created a lot of space for me to get involved in other things that weren't good for me, like drugs. And so I became a drug addict, and I became, and then when crack cocaine became very prevalent, I became a crack cocaine addict, and I just lost everything, home, car, all of that. This was prior to going into education. I went into rehab. I was homeless for a while, stayed in rehab, and then went to a halfway house for a year and a half. There, I started a choir in the rehab.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And started to develop, you know, giving the guys there a sense of pride and a sense of belonging and a sense of belief in themselves that they can overcome, while also exercising my faith and my trust that I too could overcome too. And so then I pulled some ladies from the female side of Haymarket House and became a mixed choir. And the choir was actually invited to the White House to sing.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
We represented Catholic Charities, you know, because that's where it was. But then after that, I got promoted, well, not promoted, I got asked to do a job for Catholic Charities and become their procurement director, which I did for about 3.5 years. And I started, along with Betty McDaniel, 2 homes for women and children recovering from drugs. Because anytime the women recover from drugs, they never can stay with their children. So we created 2 homes where the children could come and be with their mothers in a rehab facility. And it was amazing. And I got a little, you know, tired of that. I mean, that was social work it's a lot, you know. And so I ended up quitting that job. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed to do something else. And that's when I was asked at that time when Teachers for Chicago was evolving.
I remember that.
Right. I didn't get accepted into the program, but Pat Johnson, who was over the program, knew that I had skills in music, right? Crane needed a music teacher. So I went over to Crane and taught music for 2 years. I already had my degree, didn't have the certification.
Okay.
And then after that, those 2 years, I fell in love with those kids. I told them my story. I told the parents my story. I told them they can get over any obstacles. And I just kept the drive of positive thinking and positive belief in oneself. And, you know, that just continued to drive my passion. But I knew I needed more, because I was doing all the work that teachers were doing, but I just wasn't getting the
salary.
I wasn't getting the benefits. So I needed that. And I mean, the whole thing, Gloria, And to the audience, God just worked it all out for me, because even though I did not have the certificate, I was asked by a friend of mine to call a young lady at that time that he knew, to see if she had any openings at DePaul, and it was the DePaul Urban Teacher Corps, guided by Dr. Barbara Radner. And I called on a Friday night at 11:30, and I said, let me just call and leave a message. She answered the phone.
My goodness.
And said that, it's funny that I would call at this time because she was putting a roster together and she just had one more space. But that space went to me. Now, the other thing is that the school had to pay had to subsidize it, which the principal at that time at Crane didn't want to do. But I went to a welcome party at John Hope, where my cousin was, and ran into Dr. Mahalia Hines, the mother of Common, who was becoming the welcoming principal. And she said, what are you doing over here? Well, we knew each other from Trinity United Church of Christ.
Right.
And so she said, where are you? I said, well, I just came over here. I'm teaching at Crane. She said, oh, no, I need you here. You coming over here. And so anyway, it was a pit bull fight between two principals, because the one at Crane didn't want to let me go, and Hines was destined on getting me over there. She won.
Wow.
Because of her mentorship and her tutelage, which I have included her in my dissertation about mentorship and the linkage to mentoring, and how important mentoring is to those who want to kind of ride on the coattails of those who have done successful work.
Yes.
Hines is a case study in my dissertation. And she's the one who propelled me to heights along with my cousin. And so this is where I am today. So the doctorate is just all the benefits of just being obedient.
That story, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Chip, that story just touched my heart, because number one, I always think that the people who end up doing this work are the ones who really understand like what a struggle can do for you. Like, it seems like if you got it too easy,
right,
or too easily, you don't really understand what people go through. And so that's kind of why I feel like this might be my niche, like right here with urban families and all that entails. And a lot of times the work is difficult, it's hard. And I know, Tamiko, you and I were, when I met you, you were at schools on the west side of Chicago, and you were working with brand new teachers. And I want to tell a story. I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to see if you tell it. If you remember how we actually hooked up, and it wasn't like that good, but it was around a teacher who you were working with, and maybe you could speak a little bit about that whole idea of. Maybe you could speak a little bit about that idea of what that supports look like that you were providing for new teachers. Okay, but I'll tell the story before you go into. So the story was, there was a teacher you were working with, and I was the one who had the final say whether these people passed your program or not. And you were excited about this teacher. I was excited about this teacher because what you had told me about her. And I went in to observe, and the teacher did not have a good day that day. And everybody was just expecting, if anybody was going to get through the program, it was going to be this teacher this day. And I thought about it. I'm like, I could just sign off on it, but nah, I think I'm going to talk to Tamiko and say, let me have her do that again. And Tamiko, I want you to coach her up. And the next time I observed her, it was as though the skies had parted, and it was like, I don't know what you did. Explain to us what that mentoring is like when you have a situation in the urban setting where people already have these deficit views about what teaching is going to be like, and you want to pump people up, but you got to keep the rigor high at the same time. Like, how did you manage to do that?
I'm gonna say the same thing Chip said. Obedience. I was also one of those teachers. I remember my first year teaching was horrible. I did not have a classroom management system for the 42 students I had on the west side. 42, and the majority were boys. The 42 students I had in my fourth grade starting class, I had even though I went through an alternative certification program, which I love, it was a faith-based program, inner city teaching course, no longer around. But for the first 6 months, the course that I had over the summer to prepare me for teaching did not prepare me for what I came into. And so my first 6 months, I had coaches. They were just like, "You're doing good." And I was like, "No, I am not. I am not at all. Stop lying." And some of them were just like, "Nico, no, you have to do this differently." But it took me going into one person's classroom, Mr. Roel Vivid, and going into his classroom showed me what could be done. And I came back into my space that day, and I was like, I look like I'm young. That day, I looked a little bit taller. I was like, we are not doing this. I took away all the chairs from in my classroom and said, everybody needs to sit on the floor. Like, you earn your chair by actually coming in here and getting into the mindset. And like from that day forward, it was a shift. And so I keep thinking, and even before I took the role that I am currently in within, our district, I had to go back into the classroom again. And I had to lean in on the mentor teachers who I coached to coach and help me in a classroom where there was someone who left because they were like, "I'm done." And thinking about that experience is real. Every day, our educators are battling. Do they stay where they are, or do they leave and honor them? Some of them do not want to leave because the children who are in that building mean the world to them.
Yes.
And the community in that around the school mean the world to them. Even if it is hell inside the classroom, they are going to bust their butt to be there. But then there are some times where you're just like, forget it.
Yeah.
And so I think for me as a coach, especially when I coach educators, and even like just talking to principals too, is really figuring out and meeting people where they are. I was met where I was in so many different parts of my journey. And it took people to say, like, "You know what, Tamiko, I can see where you are, but let me come there with you so that you don't give up. Let me find out what are the things that you're struggling with. And let's figure out a way in which we can make this tangible for you." And I think for each educator, each teacher, who has been on any I have been on, I wish they were in here, but I know they know that I see their heart, that I'm going to listen to them. We're going to figure out and strategize some sort of solution so that we can make this work. I'm going to try to model as much as I can, bring resources in as much as I can, because I was there. And I didn't want somebody else who was in front of me. I could probably get up on me all the time, and I have, but right. Knowing that there has been a support mechanism to help you and to keep you motivated, even when you feel like giving up, that's huge.
That's huge.
And so for the teachers and for every single person I know that I've worked with, it has been building their capacity, bringing other people in who have those strengths, just like somebody did for me. Like, Tamiko, you're going to go and see this rock star teacher, see what they do. And then let's see what you could do, right? Same thing here. Like, who are the people who have those strengths? How can we bring those people in the room so you can see them, talk to them, touch them, taste, feel whatever it is that they're doing. Mm-hmm. And then let's work together to figure out what we can do. And I know for that educator, it was having a hard conversation. Like, I know you are the bomb.com. What happened this day? I saw you do X, Y, and Z. Something is wrong here. What's going on? Like, how can we take back control? And how can you make, your students actually work with you? And I think that's the same thing it is in life, but also knowing, like, and being humble about, I don't know all the answers. I don't know all the solutions. And I think that, again, goes with obedience too. Like, there has to be a spirit of humility. And there also has to be a spirit of, we're going to get through this together, and that, yeah, my journey though was a little bit different than Chip's, like that's a whole nother story. But in terms of the coaching aspect,
yes,
it has always been about that.
I think, no, go Chip, go.
One of the things, Gloria, which Tamiko is alluding to, is you mentioned something about partnerships and community.
Yes, that's where I was going. Let's do it.
This is actually where it all starts, and that's what really drove me. When you talk about my passion as to why I got into this and things like that, when you see there's a need, and especially when you see there's a need for love, yes, when you see there's a need for commitment, when there's a need for trust. These babies come to these schools, sometimes they don't have either three of them, and I could go down a list of other values. But when you have people standing in front of them that carry those traits and carry those values, that want to feed that to them so that they too can grow. This is where it starts, and it starts in the classroom. It starts in the school. Once you get that together, then it kind of filters out. And when it filters out, that's when you can bring the community in, because then they see something that's really happening, that's really good, and they want to be a part of it. And that's all we're looking for, because our babies, they suffer from lack of exposure. A lot of them have not been to downtown. They haven't been to the top of the John Hancock or Sears building. They haven't been anywhere but some of them haven't even been on the L train. There's just a whole lot of things that we take for granted that we don't see how we can filter into our classrooms and into our schools that would really benefit our community partnerships. And when community starts to see that, when I was the chief of family and community engagement, there was one school that they still love today. There's many more that do it, but this school on the west side, Michelle Clark High School.
Yes, speaking into existence.
My best friend, it was the principal of Michelle Clark, Annette.
That was look, I know who you're talking about. It's Charles.
Yes.
And I hate, because she's such a close friend of mine too, and I'm having, because I'm on here, I'm having a senior or a silver moment. I'll say a silver moment right now. But she was phenomenal in bringing community in. Charles, what's Charles's last name? Anyway, Charles Anderson. And wait, I got it. Thank you. Annette Gurley.
Annette Gurley, yeah, that's funny. She's my best friend. Like, we do crossword puzzles on Sunday night.
and Annette Gurley, right, who started that. Matter of fact, Charles dedicated a room there as the Annette Gurley Social Center.
Yes.
But anyway, Charles has found a way to bring so many partnerships into the school to support these children. When we got into the pandemic, it was partnerships with Walgreens, where he started bringing in vaccinations for the community, for the schools and things like that. He's done so much, even so that Lori Lightfoot, our mayor, has been over there many times, where her and her wife actually got vaccinated at Michelle Clark. But these are the kind of things, this is what schools need to be. This is how community works. This is what our community needs for it to be a place of safety, a safe haven where they can come. They're not only there just to do school, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but they come for friendships, they come for trust, they come for family, they come for, unity and all of that. And this is how we evolve to having successful schools, when you put the community in the school.
Yes.
It's just not a school in the community. We want to try to bring the community into the school and develop our children so that they can go back out to the community and enhance that. And because we are not doing that, because what happens is that with all of the violence in the news and things like that, we get afraid of these children. These are still children. I don't care if they got a gun or a pencil in their hand. They're still children. And we have to be wise enough and obedient enough to know when to face a child appropriately and respectfully, to try to change the mind of that child and change the mindset, because nobody's doing that. We're all closing our doors and locking our doors and shutting our windows and everything, while they still run rampant with no guidance. Our children need guidance, they need love, and they need to find people who can trust them to get them to that place.
That's amazing. So when I was at Chicago International Charter School, Basel campus, I was the principal there for about 5 or 6 years, I can't remember. But the group that we partnered with is called Communities and Schools of Chicago.
Right.
And so we had done, they don't just take anybody on as a school partner. You have to show that you've done some initial work. Right. And they were so impressed with the fact that we had been trying to build community partnerships that they took us on, and then they kind of assessed the things that we needed they didn't just say here's the programs we have. What are your needs? We polled our parents, we polled our students. And one of the things that we found that we needed, bottom line, was these health screenings. There were 85 children who needed glasses who didn't have them. So they partnered us up with lens crafters. We got glasses for kids. There were children who really enjoyed dancing, and we thought these children will never do ballroom dancing. Oh, the gym was filled with children doing ballroom dancing, tango and everything, that we thought that they would think that was so lame. They loved it.
Exposure.
Exposure. They
Yep.
we took a group of kids to Wicked who had never
Mhm.
been downtown to the theater. The
Yeah.
kids loved it. And afterwards, we were able to take them out to dinner. And so we
Mhm.
were able to tell them, like, okay, when we go in and we order, this is how it is. I know that those children who participated in those things that we provided will never forget those things that we did. And it made them look at life differently because they got dressed up and we got them ready and we talked to them about what we needed to act like when we were downtown. But to me, like, that was one of the most, we were able to do a career fair for parents, and some parents got hired. Like, it was a whole thing. They became a part of us, and we became a part of them, just like you were saying, Dr.
Yeah.
Chip. So
What are
if
some
you,
of the things, Tamiko, I want to know from Tamiko, what are some of the things that you get? Because one of the things that we're looking at, we're trying to bring more African Americans into our schools. We're trying to really develop programs at the college level and things like that to make it more interesting, because we're really suffering to find teachers of color to put in front of our children. And I know that you have conversations about teaching. Our teachers feel sometimes very despondent and very, not valued as they used to. And society feels that way too. I mean, we have that across the board. Police officers feel the same way. Teachers feel the same way. It's just a lot of things. Doctors feel the same way, because we're all being asked to put out, but nobody's giving, returning. And so what are some of the things that you think, Tamiko, just in this conversation, where we can provide more support for urban schools and getting these teachers of color to really come in, especially younger teachers, and really provide that support? Because at my age now, I'm a veteran, right? I'm older. So my role is to support those younger teachers, not try to place my values on them, but to honor their values and support them and push them forward. So what do you see, in the work that you do with Chicago teachers?
Well, before I go there, I wanted to just say something else, because what I'm hearing, especially in this conversation, is a part of community, which is communication.
Right. Yeah.
And so had there been no communication, even the communication you just shared with me right now, Chip, and also what you said, Gloria, when you talk to communities and schools, the fact that you were vulnerable enough to say that is the step that everyone needs to take. Like, we all have to say, like, we need help. We don't know how to do this. How can you help? How can you support? And the minute you do that, here floods all the resources and people who can help you, right? And I think that's the first step. The first step is saying, like, I can do this on my own. Who else can help me?
Yes.
What are the things to do? And once you get through that first thing, the whole world opens up, because people thought you had it, but no one's going to tell you because they don't think that you would need it or you would ask. So I think that's the first thing. And I'm grateful that you did that. I know that I've been doing that. I know Chip's been doing that, all of this stuff, but that's the first.
Let me just stop you for 1 minute, Tamiko. It revolves around one word.
Relationships. Yes, that is what I'm big on. I'm so big on it, because if you don't have relationships, you don't have anything.
Yes.
Exactly.
People will not come to your rescue. They will look at you from afar. No, it's really about the trust piece and the relationships, and just the genuine sense that you care. Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't do the things that are on your heart to do for whoever it is, right? And so that's a soft skill, a needed skill. But that is key. And if we don't have that, we're not going to get anywhere. It takes a village, right? All of this stuff takes a village. And I guess going back to what you just said, Chip, right now, if I was in college and I was looking at the field of education, I would probably have to second guess that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because of what it is that we are seeing right now in the realm of education, in the realm even of voice, in the realm of people still feeling like they want to give back when they don't see, the fruits of it. And I think that's a hard thing, right? To ask people to come into this profession when it's looking how it is right now. That is very hard. And I think the way in which to get people of color back into here is to have other people of color talk to them about their experience, the raw, like the horrible, the things that make you just want to say, like, I'm done. But then also the things that make you want to say, you know what, I'm gonna, even though I'm done, I'm gonna come back because these students deserve it. Because I want them to have that opportunity to not have somebody in front of them who does not care about their livelihood or anything else. But it takes an educator saying that to another educator, or someone who's potentially going into education, or somebody who's been there and close to it, you know, saying that to them. I think if you had more faces like that, saying like, here is my experience. Here are the things I've learned. Here are the things I'm still learning, you know, like, here are the things that I want you to know before you get in here, because it's not all rosy and lollipops every single day. It is not, it is hard work. There are too many demands that are put on our educators, too many, from the side of parents, from the side of students, from the side of administrators, from the side of the district, from the side of the state. It is so many demands. And that's hard for someone who's coming into this to even comprehend it. But if it is an educator who's able to do that and to say that and to mentor this new person coming into this fold, I know that the research says, like, if you do have a mentor, you know, these first couple of years is going to help you stay in it. If you have somebody you can constantly bounce your ideas off of and talk to and be real with, and like, this person, you know, kind of like a counselor, you know, to you. But I feel like, you know, that's what we all need. You know, like, whenever we're going through something, we do need to have someone here with us who has walked that same walk, helping us make it through that particular journey. And I think for the people who are thinking about coming into this profession, because if you're an African-American child, if you are a person of color, a child of color, you do want to see more people of color in front of you. It's not likely as much as what it was in the past, but it's so beneficial for the students to see that. And if they can see that, even if it's just 2, you know, or 3, that is huge. But providing more and more opportunities. I know there was something that we did at one of the schools, the same school. We did a whole career fair. And I worked with 2 other teachers, even though I was a coach at the school. And I was like, I just saw students every single day just walk around. They just didn't, it just seemed like no one had vision. Like, when I asked students what it was they wanted to do, they was like, I don't know, you know, I want to be a basketball player. I want to be, you know, like, those are the typical, I want to be, you know, I want to be a singer because, you know, they make so much money. I want to have my stories on YouTube. You know, everybody was just in that. Right. And I was like, no, there's more to just life than just this. And I remember I was like, let me call on as many friends as I can. Let's get these people in here into our school so our students can see them and they can hear them. They can have we have professional lunches where these individuals came in and had lunch with our students. I created forms, you know, like, for students to fill out about what their needs are and what they want. And the teachers got involved. The community got involved, because I was like, you know, everybody's coming in here pouring out to you. We got to go and pour out to the community. We got to go, and we partner with Cradles to Crayons, and we put like a whole drive together for Cradles to Crayons to actually do something for our students and have our students do something for them, right? So, I mean, but I'm saying that for their exposure, you know, exposure to individuals who have these great callings that students didn't even know existed. Teachers, you know, were just like, oh my God, I know such and such. Like, I'm gonna start bringing my people in, you know, like, but bringing people in who look like them. I'm gonna try to go back. I know I went all the way around, but like, bringing people in who look like them, bringing people in who have traveled the road that they are going into or have been in, I think is a way that you get our children of color and our people of color to get back into the game and stay there. And so if we can do that,
So I think the three of us, what I wrote down while you were speaking, both of you were speaking, is we need to do a speaking circuit. And we need to go to some high schools and we need to talk to students who are trying to decide or think about what their career path could be and just make it real talk. Like we could do that. We could do that. And the other thing that you made me think of with that question, Dr. Chip, before I ask you guys this last question, it's going to be a quote of Michelle Obama said I want you to respond to. But finding the schools that would be like the places that would grow teachers. So I tell teachers all the time who are in my classes who are thinking about going into the field once they get done. Like you want to interview that school system as well. You don't want to just take the first job. So think about a teacher that would come to your school and how they would be supported, or a teacher that would be somewhere where Tamiko would have been an administrator and how they would be supported versus a new teacher going into a building that's cold. The administration doesn't like provide mentoring or counseling, doesn't do anything for differently than for new teachers than they do for everybody else in terms of professional development. That's not going to be a good place for you to go. So doing the thing that Tamiko talked about, then in addition to that, finding places that really nurture you as a new teacher, just like you talked about happening to you, Tamiko, as a new teacher. Imagine if you had gone into a building where the principal was like, oh, she's not getting it, like she got to go. You wouldn't have been successful. You would have found a different career. And so like, I really like that idea. So of course, we don't have to have part 2 of this conversation. And then we're going to have to figure out where we speak on our speaking circuit to students of color about teaching as a choice in their career pursuits, and even maybe finding universities that would give scholarships to students of color, like a whole wraparound thing, and then providing the mentoring once they're done.
Yeah, I know the HBCUs have that program to get teachers. We just have we need people to come out of districts to come down and speak to those.
So you need to hook that up, Dr. Chip.
Right.
Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
this conversation was amazing. Okay, so here's the quote. I wish I had projected it, but I wasn't smart enough to think about that. You can't make decisions. This is Michelle Obama. You can't make decisions based on fear and the possibility of what might happen. How does decisions that we are talking about making right now, how does that fit into there? How do we get past the fear of what might happen and really start to celebrate what might happen?
Tamiko, go ahead.
Ooh, you're gonna give me the shout and cry all at the same time, because what God has been working with me on is just that. To trust him, to not fear, and I hear that song in my mind, like, I have no reason to fear. The Lord is my light. The Lord is my light. That's what I hear in my mind. And what I've been getting to is, for me, I think, oh, Jesus. What gets me not to start is I'm thinking of how things can be perfect. I am thinking about what people will think if I do this particular thing. I am afraid of failure. I am afraid of things not going right. I am afraid of this imposter syndrome that people are, constantly talk about. But what God keeps reminding me, and the circle of amazing people who are in my village keep reminding me, is all you have to do is start. It does not have to be perfect. You can work on perfection later. But if you do not do what it is you are called to do, the people who are connected to you will not get to where they are. And so when you think about, and I think the thing that we've talked about so much in here is obedience. When you think about when you think about obedience in general, if you obey, that is life. If you obey, that is life. If you disobey, if you don't do what it is that you are destined here to do, there's a part of death that happens because you don't live out what it is you are sent here to do. And because you refuse to do it, the people who are connected to you cannot get to their own destiny because you are fearful of something that probably is not even something for you to be fearful of. And so I think this is liberating to me because I keep getting this every single, and I'm like, okay, I need to be obedient with what is. And I'll let you ask that question. The only way our schools can get to where they need to be is if we take off the hat of I know it all. If we take off the hat of, I can do this by myself. I don't have, this is competition. This is when our students win, we all win. When we are not afraid, we all win because God does not give us a spirit of fear. We know that. And if we walk confidently, we are a people who walk confidently in all things that we do. And if we don't do that, we are discounting who we are and what our ancestors before us walked and put on this earth for us to do. And so I'm sorry, but those are things I think, like going against the mindset of I can't, going against the mindset of I don't know how this is going to work, to just in the mindset of, you know what, it will work. It has happened. Our students deserve more. We deserve more. We deserve better. We can do better. We are better. Like, if we get into that mindset, the fear pieces will dissipate. They will go so far away. And I think if more and more of us stop thinking about what other people thought, if more and more of us continue to move forward in the journey that God or whoever it is you believe in has set your soul to do, fear will no longer be an option. It will be more of your sounding board so that you can go to your next step. So I'm gonna stop.
I don't even know what you say after that, Dr. Chip.
I know what you say. One of the acronyms of fear that I have always remembered is the false expectations appearing real.
Ooh.
And a lot of times we allow those false expectations to sit upon us simply because we haven't identified with who we are, our own selves. And so we tend to operate through the lens of what others expect us to be.
Yes.
What others expect us to look like, talk like, dress like, what our hair should look like, and all those things to try to make an impression, while at the same time your inner child is saying, who is this?
Yes.
For you, And so we tend to do that. So when you find a person that does not invite those elements in that make you insecure, that make you weak, you find a more stronger person who doesn't worry about fear. They just make the decisions based on the strength that they know that they have to either it will be a successful outcome, or if it fails, it'll be another opportunity. And so we have to seize those moments, because if our ancestors can go through a field, try and singing songs at night just to try to make it over to the freedom land, the chances of being killed and maimed and feet chopped off and blocked off like that. Why are we so scared to go to the grocery store in our own neighborhood? Okay, so we cannot allow fear to take place. And that's what happens in our schools. It's happening in our communities. It's happening in our hospitals. It's happening everywhere where we're giving up. And we cannot allow that fear to take us over, because when you allow fear to take over, then it all goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yep.
Because there's nothing else to hold on to. So we can't be afraid. The teachers have to find those supportive teachers. They can't be afraid of the children that come into their classroom. They may be called an MF. They may be called some of anything. This is their level of reality.
Yes.
We have to change that. We can't say, "Oh, I'm gonna put you out," or that's disrespectful. You're not respectful. They don't know respect. That's why you're here, to teach them that. So we have to honor where we are and honor where they are.
Yes.
Okay. And let the twain meet in the middle. And it can happen again when you take the fear out of it, when you build those relationships and when you encapsulate it in a sense of and a culture of community.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been the best conversation ever. And like we talked about before we started, I was fearful because of some feedback I had gotten on a previous interview, but I'm just learning how to do these. And so thank you, because all of that you said, I wrote down even the false expectations of period, all of that, I got it all in my notes. And I can't thank you enough for the conversation this evening. Remember, we got to have part 2. And the other thing is we got to go on the speaking circuit.
Gotcha.
Thank you all so
available.
much. Thank you.
Let us know.